Um, Also, Station 23 should be opening at the end of October or sometime in October. It's going to be located at 13th and West Street at the Dillons. It'll have a one engine with 4 personnel on it, and then there'll be the one engine at Station 7 at 21st and Amden area. So that's all I have for you this month. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wichita Police Department.
Hello all, I'm Officer Tondo, Police Department. I work out of Patrol West, Community Policing on 12 beat. Me and Officer Wagner just decided to kind of include one, since we both had the same information. For Patrol West and for Patrol North, we'll be having Open Streets this coming, Open Streets ICT this coming Sunday. So basically we're going to be shutting down Douglas from Seneca all the way, I believe, a little past Hillside. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, we'll have a bunch of vendors will come out and little jumpy houses, pretty much for families. And they'll come out and ride their bicycles back and forth. It's a pretty cool event. We have it once a year. We haven't had it because of COVID the last couple of years. For Patrol West, we have Second Chance Thursday coming up this coming Thursday. It's going to be at the old library on South Main Street. And for people who don't know what that is, it's basically where people have traffic warrants, they can come out. And we will reset their court date. Instead of them having an actual bench warrant for like having no driver's license or a tag light out or something like that, where they didn't go to court. We can reset it so they don't. So when they walk out, they will not have a bench warrant. They don't have to worry about getting arrested. The state's usually there, and they will help you with your suspended driver's license if they can. Sometimes they can't help you. Even on a revoked driver's license, they'll get it to where you can drive legally back and forth to work. So it may not apply to anybody here in this room, but if you know somebody, please pass it on. We'll be there from 9 to 5. Just come in through the main entrance. From Patrol West also, we've been dealing with street racers down on South Hoover, south of Kellogg. The city has made it a violation also to be a spectator. Apparently people will gather there, they'll put it on social media and have vehicles race. And now I guess we can give citations to the people that are just watching and impound vehicles. So hopefully that will put a little dent in that. As far as 12 beat, it's just been pretty much homeless issues in the area of Douglas and Seneca. A lot of camping, a lot of police disturbances. So that's what we've been busy with over there. Does anybody have any questions real quick? I know they have a busy agenda here, so. Vincent, no questions.
Questions?
No questions, no questions. All right, thank you
All
guys.
right, thank you. Library report.
Hey everybody, Sarah McNeil with Wichita Public Library. A couple of updates for you. This happened last month, but on August 23rd, the Wichita City Council approved the 2023 budget, and that included an initiative for us to eliminate overdue fines and fees, and this is paramount. So with this elimination, we join libraries across the country to choose to focus on barrier-free access to information, because research has shown that overdue fines are not effective in encouraging customers to return materials. In fact, it's the opposite. They just stop coming to the library. So instead, overdue fines will not be a barrier, and starting September 26th through October 2nd, we are encouraging customers that have items that are long overdue to return those items. This is part of our Amnesty Week. And what we will do is we will waive any fees that are associated with those items that are overdue. That also includes items that might be missing contents, such as audiobooks or DVDs. That does not include our internet bundles, so certain things we'll still hold you accountable for. But we're basically trying to level the playing field for everyone and create equity. This month, we join libraries and bookstores across the country to support Banned Books Week, and that's September 18th through the 24th. If you go out by our self-check, we've got a little display set up early, but next week it's going to be a big hurrah. And we're actually going to host one of the movie nights here, and that's going to be on, the 21st. We're going to showcase The Giver, and that'll be in our Everdream classroom just around the way. The Advanced Learning Library is also hosting a movie night, and they're doing The Lovely Bones, and that'll be September 19th at 5 p.m. Ours will be at 6 p.m. And then to tie in with Banned Books Week, our podcast is going to have a special episode where they're going to interview the author Sherman Altsey. He wrote the book, The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, which is often banned, and so they're going to have a live stream of that conversation and invite participants in the audience to ask questions and participate in games. So if you're interested in that, that'll be September 23rd at 6:30 at the Downtown Library. They are asking that you register just to get a head count, but I'm sure there's plenty of room. If you want any more information on Banned Books Week, check out our website, wichitalibrary.org/bannedbooks. One also thing to note about September, it's library card sign-up month, so if you know someone who doesn't have a library card, get them in here and let's get them a card. We have so many free services, and we want to make them available to everyone, not just books and movies, technology, but programs. There's so many different things you can do with your library card, so please stop in. And one final thing to mention is that we are excited to partner with Manhattan Short Film Festival and host 2 screenings of 10 short films this year. So join us Saturday, September 24th at 10:30 or Sunday, September 25th at 1:30 at the Advanced Learning Library. 2 specific things that are happening at this branch this month. We're starting our story times back up on Wednesdays. That's a bilingual story time, and that's at 10:30. And then one of our building partners in Power, they're doing a Hispanic Heritage Month. So they're having several programs here, and then within the community, you can check out their Facebook page. They've got those programs listed if you're curious. Any questions from the community or the DAB?
Any questions? Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Sarah. Okay. Can I get a show of hands how many people are here to speak on the PUD 2211 for the Delano? We're going to kind of move things around a little bit since there's so many people here to speak on behalf of that planning case. Wanna do they do their presentation first, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we have the presentation spots and we're ready for the presentation of PUD 2211.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
You've got
Sorry
that
to kind of move
separate.
things around.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. I'm Scott Wadle from the Planning Department. Good to see you all. So here to present on the PUD case. So what I like to do with these is, since we're looking at the staff report up here, did everyone get a copy, or there were copies up front, right? Okay, so please share if you didn't get one. Ask your neighbor. What we'll do is we'll go to the end of the report. There's graphics in there, and then we'll look at the photos, make sure everyone's at the same kind of oriented to the case, and then we'll go back and review the case language. Does that sound good? Okay, very good. We'll give that a shot. There's a lot of text, so, okay, very good. Is this the first graphic that's in there? Okay, it is. Very good. So, this is the property, everyone's probably familiar with it, but if not, it's proposed to be separated into 2 parcels. And you can see that there would be multifamily development. Sort of row houses is what the concept that was submitted by the applicant. There would be parking on the south, and there would be access to the east, access to the south, access to the west. Let's go to the next one. So here's the aerial image. So you can see the subject site is the area in red. So it's up against McLean. here's Fern, here's Millwood, Vine. Next, let's keep going. This is the zoning map. So first off, you see the hatched marks, so the orange that's in there. That is the Delano overlay, which you may be familiar with from other cases in District 6, but it has design standards or requirements as part of that overlay district. So anything that gets constructed within that area needs to comply with those. You can see that the current zoning shows up as white, which is SF5, single family, 5,000 square feet per dwelling unit. And you can see a smattering of yellow in the area, which is TF3. And you can see green in some locations, which is general office. Doing good so far? Okay, just stop me, members of the DAB, if you have questions. And members in the audience, you'll have an opportunity for public comment. Then, this is the map from the future growth concept map. This is in the comprehensive plan. So what it does is it identifies future recommendations for land use. You can see that the majority of the site is identified in yellow, which means residential. There's a portion of it that is identified as green, which is parks and open space. Next graphic, please. This is the map. So we were talking about the comprehensive plan, which is the high-level plan for both the city and the county. Then if we zoom in a little bit more, there's the Delano neighborhood plan, which I think is just missing just off the edge. This is from the neighborhood plan specifically for Delano. You can see where the red arrow is. That's about where the subject site is. And it is shown as yellow, which is residential. Next graphic, please. Here are some photos from the site. So this is looking at the site from Vine. This is looking west away from the site, looking south and east away from the site. You can see some of the houses. Looking east along McLean, you can see the winding sidewalk. I want to say next slide, but next page. Here's another photo of McLean. This is a photo, I believe, of the site. Can you scroll down just a little? There we go. Southwest, away from the site at Millwood. Okay. So then this is looking south. You can scroll so people can see it. This is down Millwood, and this is looking west at the site from Millwood. Next page. Okay. So more residences. Picture looking east towards Fern, so along McLean. A picture of the site, and then looking southeast away from the site towards Fern. Does that kind of help get everyone oriented? Okay. Next page. Let's see if there's anything else. That's it? Okay, let's go clear to the beginning, and we'll go through the staff report. Okay. So again, the current zoning is SF5. What they are requesting is PUD, which is custom zoning, which means it's customized per the request. And so it's just over 1 acre, and it talks about the location. So the recommendation from staff is approval with conditions, and we'll talk about what those are. Let's go. Here's again the map of the site. You can see it. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so this talks about the background, talks about the development standards and the density. So they're proposing to develop it with 19 units split between those two parcels. Let's go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. You can see a table that would compare it. Parcel 1, Parcel 2, TF3. We talk about setbacks. So setbacks is how close from this property can you build to the next property over, or the right-of-way? How close to the edge of the property can you build? So you can see that the setbacks would be from the front, which is actually onto St. Louis, would be 10 feet. The rear, McLean, would be 0 feet. That means that they could build up to the right-of-way line. Then on the side street, 10 feet again, and then the height would be limited to 35 feet in height. Then in terms of the density, there's a number of dwelling units. So it would be limited parcel 1, 7, and 12 on parcel 2. You can see how this compares to a TF3 zoning district, which would be 9 and 9. Next slide, or next page, let's keep going. We've got a discussion about parking and sidewalks. Now, part of the thing is that when the city acquired the property for McLean, that's my understanding, is that it was acquired as part of the development with McLean. If you look at an aerial, the sidewalks are really windy. And those sidewalks actually come off of the right-of-way and onto these properties, which are separate parcels. And so if the property is sold and developed, we'll have to do something about those sidewalks. And so that's talked about in here. There's also discussion about how many off-street or on the site parking spaces would be required as part of the zoning. Okay, next, let's keep going. Signs and architectural controls. Signage would be fairly constrained. It would be constrained similar to what the TF3 zoning district, which is two-family zoning district. And again, the properties within the Delano neighborhood overlay, all the designs would have to be reviewed by the Delano Review Committee and approved before the issuing of building permits. Screening and landscaping, there's a discussion in here. The parking lot would need to be screened. And landscape yard, not only screening, but also landscaping as well. And this is the ratio of the landscaping to be installed, 1 shade tree per linear feet. Let's keep going. Let's go up just a little bit because I know that there's been discussion about this. The site currently has approximately 40 trees. The rate of the landscape buffer would require a minimum of 12 trees planted along the abutting property lines. Landscape street yards require 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental per 500 square feet. The total number of shade trees required to be planted based on the combined streetscape side yard calculation is 13. This number is greater if the applicant chooses to plant 2 ornamental trees. And I'm going to skip a little bit, but finally, staff is recommending the applicant plant street trees along North McLean for the entire north boundary of the PUD at a rate of 1 tree per 40 linear feet. This would add an additional 19 trees to the already calculated 13 trees. Is this too much detail? Are we doing okay? Okay. All right, and then the next one, screening a minimum of a 6-foot screening fence when abutting residentially zoned property, which again, most of that is properties to the south, which you saw from the zoning map. Okay, and then this talks about the things that you had seen in the photos, which is what are the surrounding land uses to the property. Let's keep going, Anna. Okay, case history, this is about platting. You can see that it goes all the way back to 1887. And then the purchase of the properties by the city, 1994, 1995. Okay, let's keep going. We've talked about the surrounding zoning, public services. I think everyone's familiar. This place is it's well served by all the public services. Conformance with plans, community investments plan. It is in conformance with the community investments plan. And let's keep going. Development pattern within the established central area. So part of the comprehensive plan, there's a subset plan called the Places for People plan. And it identifies an area called the established central area. And this is a discussion or review. Oops. Anyone else want to move the slide down? Discussion or review about how it's consistent with that. Okay, let's keep going. Places for People, we can go ahead and move on past that. But if anyone has any questions in detail, we can always come back. Okay, so the recommendation is for approval. Number 1, that PUD shall be as recommended by the MAPC. Landscape plans would be required, must be approved before the project can move forward. Let's see, vacation of platted setbacks, which would be necessary. That they've got to record the PUD and that they've got to submit copies. Keep going. Now, sometimes what we see with conditions are that And if you stick around for later tonight, you'll see zoning cases that have a list of a lot more conditions attached to them. This one doesn't have as many because it's already in the existing PUD, the customized language for this particular zoning case. Okay. I guess the only other thing that I would add to this is that on June 2nd, the MAPC reviewed this application, held a public hearing. That was again on June 2nd and recommended approval 10-1. Several members of the public spoke in opposition with general concerns about increased traffic, concerns about traffic safety, especially getting onto McLean Boulevard, the impact that new development would have on rents, and the loss of open space and mature trees. Then on June 15th, the District Advisory Board reviewed the application and voted 6-0. Approval, subject to staff recommendation. One member of the public spoke at this meeting with questions regarding access to the sidewalk along North McLean, what the anticipated rents would be, and the possible effects that the development would have on surrounding properties. Now, in the zoning process, there's an opportunity for protest petitions to be submitted. This is a state process, or it's regulated by state statute, but it's adopted in our zoning code. Several protests were received against this case. And the protest area is a defined area. For the size of this one, I'll have to refresh my memory, but it's between 200 and 1,000 feet. There were several protests received. It totaled more than about just over 30% of the protest area, which exceeds the 20% threshold established by the state statute. Therefore, it requires a supermajority vote, or 6 of 7 votes on the city council in order to be approved. Then, so on July 5th, it was reviewed by the city council. City council heard the case, and they voted to defer the item to the August 2nd meeting in order to allow additional time to review the case. On August 2nd, the city council again heard the case and deferred the item to September 20th in order to collect additional input, especially at DAB 6. So that's why we're here. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Anybody on the DAB have a question?
We should note that on the June meeting, there was not 6-0, it was 5-1.
5-1. Okay, thank you. My notes are incorrect then.
Hey, Scott, so I just have maybe one for now. Could you describe who owns the parcels now? Like it was city owned, but it's been sold already to?
It's under contract is my understanding, and that has been extended.
Can you describe what that means?
Sure. So kind of like, I guess, when you would go to, in this case, they solicited, my understanding is there was a solicitation for proposals that they went under contract with the person, the applicant who's proposing to buy it. That property sale has not closed, and then in fact there was an extension so that the zoning case could be fully considered.
So is it appropriate to say that maybe it's not. Right now it's kind of like, it's still owned by the city. Under
Yes, it
contract
has
to
not
this
been,
buyer.
that's correct.
Okay,
That is my understanding.
cool.
I have a question. Just making sure I'm understanding this right.
Sure.
So 13 trees would be required, but the 19 trees is only a recommendation.
Yes, that is correct.
And the 19 is a recommendation in addition to.
That is
the 13.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the 13 trees, are they ornamental or are they shade trees?
No, they would be considered shade trees. And if they want to do ornamental trees, our landscape code treats them differently, and so there's a different ratio. It actually I think it doubles the number of trees that would be necessary.
And then is there an affordable housing component to this?
There is not.
Okay.
There have been some discussions about that, but there is not a requirement for affordable housing as part of this project.
Do you know what the proposed rents would be for this?
I will leave that to the applicant. I'll
okay.
defer to them.
Do you know what the comparable rents in the neighborhood is?
You know, it varies, and part of the challenge, because that question has come up And in doing some quick searches on that, part of the challenge is the amount of new construction that's occurred in the area. There isn't a ton, and then as you go further, I guess I ended up at River Vista for comparable, and their rents were like $1,500-1,800 a month.
So that's the reason the River Vista, that's the ones right on the river, right?
Right on the river, that's correct.
Anybody else have any more questions for Scott from the dad?
So we're gonna go ahead and move it to the public comment portion of this case. What we are gonna ask is that people who are here to present on this item, they have a limit of 3 minutes to present their comments. Questions are asked towards the end of the presentation. Since we do have quite a few people who are here to present, we do like to remind people to keep comments to the best of your knowledge to the 3 minutes, and don't repeat sentiments that have already been said by previous members of the public. So we want to be cognizant of the number of we want to make sure everybody has a chance to come up front and say present on behalf of their neighborhood or their thoughts. With that, we can open it up to the first presenter. Who would like to go first? You can go ahead first. When presenters present, we want to state first and last name, address, and if you're representing a certain group or your neighborhood.
Oh, are you gonna keep time?
Yes, I will.
Hi, my name is Karen McDonough, and it's 2247 West Caroline Street. And tonight I just came to represent the children who don't have the voice, and so I'm going to be their voice tonight. There is a business on Seneca and McLean right there. It's Office Spots. They're a play spot, which is Office Spots also houses 5 cognitive therapists within that building. It's the blue building. 340 sessions are scheduled per week with the children. The children have autism, sensory processing disorders, and many of those kids who have those disorders, they have a fight or flight response when the noise levels are escalated. And that's my concern, that when you bring in these large machines, building equipment, things like that for a long extended period of time, you're going to have a lot of families dealing with a lot of extra stress. This company has been in this community for 7 years. They've been helping these children. It's an integral part of our community, and I think it's very important to remember to consider these kids and these families. And the cognitive therapists also work with a lot of PTSD clients, and I'm really concerned with the noise level and the changes and all of that could do to the community and to these kids. So I wanted to come tonight and voice for the kids. Thank you.
My name's Michael Walker. I live at 122 North Clarence in my great-grandfather's house. We bought it in 1920 when it was built. My county clerk uncle lived 2 doors down. They sold the farm in Clonmel, which is where my immigrant great-grandfather settled with his brother, so that's why it's named after his home. Anyway, I've been familiar with that neighborhood my entire life, when there were everything within walking distance. Several grocery stores, mom and pop establishments, libraries, post office, hardware stores. What I don't understand is when all of this is out on the outskirts, perimeter of the city, and these things are neglected in our neighborhood, why you want to bring more people into this part of town. In addition to that, we're obliterating the history and legacy of a great man. Ben McLean was a 3-term mayor under Finley Ross. He established and purchased the land for Riverside Park. The park from Douglas to 2nd Street was named for him. His fountain is still there, not functioning anymore and barely noticeable. Anyway, that after the WPA took out Ackerman Island, the scenic highway was unanimously named for him because of his efforts to keep the city green. We're obliterating his legacy. We've got those apartments on that park land. We've got, Seneca Bridge is still there. He lived at 313 North Seneca, so he was a Delano resident. His daughter, he became a gentleman farmer after he retired from he was president of Fourth National Bank downtown. Anyway, after his death, his daughter and son developed the land north of 21st. Her area was now Benjamin Hills. She fired any contractor who proposed cutting down a mature tree or leveling in the land. So that is in keeping with what they desire for the city. And as a citizen who's lived here, not most of my life because I lived away for 30 years, because I wanted to live in walkable cities. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. When people come to visit me, and I take them to all the best things that Wichita has to offer, Botanica, Exploration Place, the new library, the ballpark, Century 2, Keeper of the Plains, all those things are right there. And you've got those sculptures of the light poles going down that beautiful boulevard with all the green spaces to the south side of it because they can't develop the dangerous area down by the river, which most people who jog and stuff in that area are too afraid to go down there because it's not, there, you can't see anybody down there. Anyway, when visitors come to visit me, I prefer to take them that way to all those wonderful jewels that we have downtown and not have to go by a bunch of stacked Lego buildings that are poorly conceived and poorly constructed. Thank you.
Thank you. And those will be poorly constructed.
Hi, my name is Misty Marley. I live at 434 North Millwood. I am a long-term renter of the area, which is just a couple, less than a block away. My particular home is privately owned. It is not owned by a management company, which that is a concern personally to me. I've lived in management company owned places. They are not well kept. They are, the rent is higher, multiple problems. We have one just across the street, in fact, that is management run, and we've had multiple problems. We have had a situation that we all had to be locked in our homes due to the SWAT team being out there. So that is important to me, as well as the rent prices. I know just on my street alone, rentals go for less than almost half of the proposed amount, which I know is a little bit probably lower than the city's average, but anywhere from $500 to $800 on our street alone is what average rent prices are right now. And that's not for a multi-family unit. That's for a home with a yard. My particular one is a duplex, but it's a rather large duplex. So my other concern is safety. I've raised my child in that neighborhood. We have spent time in the green space for school projects. The only way to turn left out of our neighborhood is off of McLean is on Vine Street. And I foresee we're looking at least 20 to 40 extra cars if these go into
Apartments.
if these apartments go up. So that would be a huge traffic increase. We already have a block long dirt road on St. Louis that you really, which is pretty narrow, that you really have to watch the traffic on right now. So those are my thoughts, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm going to take this off so that you can hear me. My name is Elizabeth Bishop, and I'm here to speak for the trees and for Wichita's urban tree canopy. When is the best time to plant a tree? Yesterday. 20 years ago. I'm a tree master gardener, and I previously served on the board of an organization called I See Trees. We work to promote, preserve, and maintain our city's current tree canopy, as well as sponsoring the planting of new trees. Well, we actually dug the holes and planted them. I'm opposed to the destruction of green space and tree canopy unless absolutely necessary. Utilizing a tree identification app, I inventoried the trees on this property, and I came up with on a 1 1/4 acre site, there were approximately 47 to 55 mature trees. Using an app, I inventoried them. Here are the species of trees that are found on this property. Callery pear trees, big tooth maple. I had to look that one up. It's interesting. The shape of the maple leaf is different. Pin oak, white mulberry, Siberian elm, tree of heaven, black locust, common persimmon, Persian silk tree, eastern redbud, bald cypress, Shumard oak, trident maple, Chinese pistache, sugarberry, which is part of the hackberry family, Rocky Mountain juniper. Those Rocky Mountain junipers are huge and they're gorgeous. Golden rain tree, honey locust, common hackberry, eastern red cedar, and red pine tree. And by the way, when I counted the trees, I did not include the 3 or 4 pine trees that really need to be taken out because they are dead or dying, and that pine trees all over the city are suffering that way. Some of the Siberian elms look like they're dying, and that's true all over the city, but they're not. The elm leaf beetle has been really bad this year, and we are very much in hopes that all of those trees will come back as soon as we get some moisture to them. There are multiples of these different species, and there were 21 species that I found. And except for the few pines that should be removed, they are mature, healthy trees. According to the Wichita tree policy, the city removes between 3,000 and 5,000 trees per year, while only planting between 1,300 and 1,600 per year. We understand that that will be increased this year, which I'm really glad to hear, but we're still running at a deficit. We cannot afford to lose any more of our urban tree canopy. We all understand the many benefits that mature, healthy trees provide. Shade to help our flower beds and lawns combat the increasing sun and heat damage. They filter pollution runoff. They are crucial for taking in carbon and expelling oxygen into beneficial oxygen into our city atmosphere.
Elizabeth, your time is up. If you want to go ahead and wrap up your thought.
There are a number of guidelines that were established in the Delano neighborhood plan. And I believe that this zoning request violates several of those guidelines, such as invest in the quality of our community life, take better care of what we have, provide for balanced growth, but with added focus on our established neighborhoods. Please deny this request. Thank you. My name is Deborah Lowry. I'm representing my aunt, Dean Rosenhammer, who lives at 437 North Fern. She has lived there for 54 years since she got married. She's raised 6 kids there. She has children and grandchildren that come and play there, and she's worried about the increased traffic there. She's also worried, is concerned about the lack of communication that this project has been under. She did not even know about this project until she got something on her front door. And she lives about a block and a half from McLean and did not know anything about it until someone left a flyer on her door. She thinks that the traffic is going to start going down right in front of her house, utilizing 2nd Street because of the other problems up there. She's also very concerned about the safety in the neighborhood. 94, living alone, and putting up with that many apartments in that area. It's been a pretty quiet neighborhood. She knows everybody. She knows what they drive. She keeps an eye out on stuff. And you start getting all these new people in. She's not going to know if anyone in the neighborhood is not going to know. Excuse me. Who's there? Who's supposed to be there, and who's not supposed to be there. And so that is her concern. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Randall. I rent. I live at 501 North Millwood. I am next door to this nightmare that's about to happen. It was trying to happen. I watched 3 little kids out in that cul-de-sac the other day playing. People walk their pets. This is sad. It just makes me really sad that this could happen. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Hello, my name's Bridget Yinger. I live at 234 North Clarence. I love living in Delano, love all of the tree cover, I love the brick roads that we have. I'm not against development, but I am for preserving green space, and I see it just disappearing at a very rapid rate. I looked over the development plan, and I feel like it looked a lot like walkability was important, and that balance of green space was important in the plan. One of the requirements is about the easement, and what I want to speak to is that 0-foot clearance that's being requested. I'm not sure, maybe someone here can clarify. The building height is capped at 35 feet. Is that 2 stories, 3 stories? How many stories is that building? Jeff, can you answer that? It's only 2 stories? Okay. So with a 2-story building, we're supposed to have a 20-foot easement. And I understand that there's a 0-foot easement and that we're requesting the right-of-way for the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yeah, Kurt Miller, the engineer, he's here. He may be able to answer this question better than I can.
So what I wasn't able to see from the drawings is what that distance is from where the property line is to McLean. How much green space is going to be left there for the sidewalk and the trees and that?
It's about 15 feet.
Okay, so that's under
the
the
curb to the property.
So that's under the 20 feet that we are requiring. And I think the 5 feet matters, I really do. I've seen the development that was done at Waco and Second, which was also done by NIA Martins, and I do not, is that not correct?
NIA Martins is not the developer. They keep on putting the name on it. NIA Martins is not the developer.
So you're the developer?
Yes, we're independent.
Of this, okay. And have you managed other properties, or is this going to be your first time doing a multifamily development?
One of our partners has a property management company.
Okay.
We've been involved in the Baltimore 300 North Main and 930 West Southwest in Delano.
Okay. So I really like the mature trees, and what I see happening with a lot of those new developments, and I don't know if this is your developments or not, is they do the 2 ornamentals instead of the large mature trees, and that just doesn't provide the same shade as the old mature trees do. And when I envision going along McLean, and I envision what Michael was talking about with Ben McLean, I really think it's important to honor that space along the river by leaving green space there. So I would ask that we at least honor that 20-foot easement, and that be in addition to the right-of-way. That wide space is so important for safety when we see those cars flying around the corner. I do use that sidewalk. I love having that shade break every couple of blocks, so I think it's really important that we maintain that where we can and that we just don't erase any more green space. While I'm up here and I have time, I also want to speak for my roommate Brenna, who's not able to be here tonight. She has done some research on rents. Since these new developments have gone in, Delano has become far more expensive. If you do a search right now, studios, 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms, they're anywhere from $1,100 to $1,800, and then when it goes to 3-bedrooms, it goes down to $900. And that's because these new developments aren't doing 3-bedrooms, and the old rents were closer to that. I live in a 2-bedroom. I have a giant backyard and a front yard, and I pay $800. This $1,200 to $1,500 is not guaranteed. It's not in writing, and it's double of what most of us are paying. It doesn't seem to fit with the neighborhood. I just don't like the visuals of this. It feels like it's packing way too much into a small space, and we have so many dilapidated areas, so many other areas we could develop. I would just ask that we preserve this particular green space because we're losing them at a rapid rate, and I would hope that all of you would see that balance is important and maintaining what we have is super important, and planting new trees is not the same as keeping old ones. So I think I heard the timer.
Can I ask you a question real fast?
Yeah.
You have a 3-bedroom, is that what you said?
A 2-bedroom.
A 2-bedroom. What was your rent?
800.
800.
Mhm.
And how far away are you?
I'm on Clarence between 1st and 2nd Street.
Fairly close.
Yeah, and if I look at Wichita, I did look at those numbers. Rents are anywhere from $600 to $900 for 1 to 3 bedrooms within Wichita. So these developments really do raise rents. I used to live in Portland, and I saw how a lot of us got pushed out because these new multifamily things got pushed through. And also the language I wanted to speak to really quickly, is it TF3 or is it multifamily? Because
neither. It's PUD.
Which will it be? Because that seems like this question mark that seems important, if it's going to be multifamily or if it's going to be 2-family.
Yeah, it's, the zoning that's requested is PUD, which is custom. And so why you see references to TF3 and to SF5 is because those are zoning districts that are already in the zoning code, and so that's what we're comparing it to. So that's why you see the references in there.
But what they're actually going to build looks like that MF18, or it might actually be a different code than those 2 codes. Is that correct?
No, what you'll see in the staff report, because it's custom, we've included the tables that describe how many dwelling units are allowed on each of the parcels.
Right, so that was larger because the dwelling units was 18. Is that right? Is what it's
I
allowed
believe that's
for
correct.
right now?
Anna, if you want to go to the table that's in the...
19.
By requesting a PUD, they're essentially requesting an extension to the neighborhood plan.
Yeah.
So because this case is going to go to city council again, and we are taking minutes that will be submitted for the city council, we need to keep this meeting in order, which means that anybody who's speaking needs to be up front because we need to be able to capture what you're saying. For future reference, if you're up here, this is your comment portion of the section. If you have questions, you can ask questions. Hopefully the applicant and the agent are taking notes that they will be able to answer those questions at the end when it's their turn to present. But this is just for you to be able to provide some comment and feedback on the case. We want to go ahead and make sure that the questions are left towards the end of the meeting because we have so many of you guys here that want to make sure that your comments are heard. We want to make sure that you all get the same amount of time.
Thank you.
My name is Harold Schlechtweg, and I live at 351 North Fern. So I live about 3 blocks away from the proposed development, and I was never notified of it. I wasn't within the notification area. I happened to see a sign posted on the property, which is how I found out about it. First of all, I want to make clear, we do not oppose infill in Delano. There are in fact other areas of Delano where infill is appropriate. We do expect, though, that the city will follow its own guidelines in terms of infill. Infill has appropriate price points. In theory, infill should have different price points, and if you're going to put in expensive apartments, you should also be looking at apartments that are affordable for people that live in our community. The city's not doing that. We got our V apartments, we got another set of apartments coming in down by the river, and we've got this coming in, and the price points are not relevant to our renters because, and what they're going to do is they're going to cause people to have to leave the area as rents go up throughout. It's about 10% increase, I think, over the past year of rents for everyone in Delano. We support infill if it's appropriate price points, environmentally sound, and doesn't disrupt the neighborhood. Then it's a good thing because it's environmentally sound. I won't go into that, but we're opposed to this project on city-owned land because of its impact on a fragile, largely low-income neighborhood and because it destroys valuable matured shade trees at a time of destructive climate change. The developer, NAI Martins, wants to shoehorn apartments into the space between McLean Boulevard and residential property to the south of the development. The developer has asked that the property in question be rezoned as a PUD, a planned unit development. This is significant because the developer needs to change the zoning to PUD in order to escape the requirements of both the current zoning and the requirements for zoning in a multifamily residential. I repeat, it is a PUD request because the plan can't meet the requirements set out for multifamily residential or for TF3 zoning. TF3 is single and double, which is a duplex. So right now, our whole area of Delano, most of the folks in here are from the area between Douglas and McLean and between Seneca and Meridian. So that area right there. A close reading of the staff report shows that because of the narrowness of the parcels, neither parcel meets setbacks required by TF3. In fact, the rear setback on McLean is actually 0 feet for both parcels. There is no zoning for a residential area that would permit 0 feet offsets, except a PUD. He calls it a custom. I call it a get-out-of-jail-free card for when planners and developers want to break the rules. Even the commercial buildings along McLean have been required to have offsets from their property line. You won't find one commercial building between Seneca and Meridian McLean intersection that has a 0 feet offset. I mean, just go down and look at them.
Harold, your time is up. If you want to go ahead and wrap up your thoughts.
I will do that. Most of the people have said what I wanted to say, but I do want to say that reading the neighborhood plan and saying that it meets all of these different requirements is a matter of interpretation. It's kind of like the Bible, you know? If you don't, you can interpret it. It's not in conformance with community investment plan. The proposed development is not in compliance with locational guides of the comprehensive plan. It is not out of compliance with the Delano neighborhood overlay plan. The proposed development is not in compliance with Wichita Places for People plan. It does not make our neighborhood more walkable. Everybody here knows our neighborhood is walkable right now. And the way they're going to build that thing, nobody is going to want to walk in front of it on McLean.
Hi, my name is Danny Lawson. I live at 518 South Vine Street, and I appreciate the opportunity you've given us to speak here tonight. I'll make mine really quick. You won't need your timer. I've lived in Wichita my whole life. I'm almost 63, and every year you see a little bit more of the scenic McLean Boulevard that we used to call it in the 70s disappear. And we get all these buildings put up, and I miss driving along the river through town. And I chose to move to Delano a couple of years ago because of the rich mix of architecture that we have here. We have the Victorians, we have the four-square craftsman, we have the bungalows, which is what I have, a craftsman bungalow, and just several others. And it's a very walkable neighborhood, as you've heard everybody say tonight. I enjoy getting out, meeting my neighbors, saying hi. I mow their lawns. I talk to the widows. It's a single family neighborhood, and I'm just concerned that what we see here, we've used that's just too much for this area. We need our trees. We need our green space. We need some walkability, and my personal opinion is this is not the right project for this spot. And I don't know, I haven't heard what the city supposedly is getting for this property, but I would like to ask that question if we could be told that tonight. But with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Ballard, we do have people tuning in online on Facebook, and we do have a comment from Esther Lusk, and she says that she would love to see this become an official park.
Great grandchildren would love it. Dang, Esther just took my. Thanks, Esther. My name's Kent Daniels. I'm at 439 North Millwood. This is just spitting distance from where we live, and I've lived since 1994. Everybody else got all my good points, but I really think that Delano is so underserved right now with green space and city park. I think the only city park we have in the boundaries is Seneca Park across from Allison, and that's pretty much for pickleballers and homeless people. So I'd kind of like to hang on to just this little slice of green that's left along the river there, because everything else has been taken. The library lost their view of the river when they put that nasty apartment building across from it. And I just see all these things popping up along McLean, and I just think, you know, we need to say stop at some point. I think we're losing the river completely.
Well, we've lost the river. And that's it. Thanks.
My name is Mike Medecky, and I've lived in the neighborhood since 1983. At that time, I was the youngest resident homeowner. You can tell that's not true anymore. I, a little over a year ago, purchased a vacant lot that's just a block away from where this is being proposed. I'm putting in a community garden. I invite people to come over and help themselves to what I plant. I was not aware until I bought that lot, until I spent weekends and evenings working what's supposed to be my retirement project, which I'm doing a little bit early. I had no idea how many streetwalkers we had in the neighborhood. Not the kind that Delano was known for 100 years ago, but we have at least one of the streetwalkers right here in the room. I won't point him out in the front row, but we have other streetwalkers. Robert and Brittany and their two daughters come across the street. We've got Anna and Jake who walk their dog. We have a lot of people that are walking the streets constantly. When McLean Boulevard was made and they took out a whole row of houses, drastically reduced the amount of traffic that came down Fern Street. Fern Street used to be really busy. Cars used to cut through there all the time. When that Boulevard was put in, it greatly reduced the traffic. People are walking the streets every night. As I sit there pulling weeds in a garden, I see people walking by. And I really worry about the safety of the kids, of the pets, and I really feel that this project, as has been said many times, we're not against development, but this is really not the right place for it. So I guess that's it for me.
Hi there, I'm State Senator Mary Ware, and I live at 1444 North Perry, not in Delano, but that's part of my district, and I very much, my neighborhood is not terribly different from Delano. I have, besides all the issues that have already been brought up, I really have two other thoughts. One, the parking that's being allowed for in this plan is exactly 1 car per bedroom. No, 1 1/4 for a 1 bedroom and 1 7 3/4 for a 2 bedroom. So 1 per bedroom. What if 2 of those folks need, there's going to be parking along the street like crazy. That is not adequate parking at all. The other thought, besides all of what everybody else has said tonight, is, perhaps this whole process needs to be backed up and rethought, because not only are the homeowners not hearing about this as well as they might have, or we would hope they would, the renters were not notified at all. The renters are the folks who live in the district. Many times the owners aren't there at all. And so how much concern does a homeowner who's they're owning the property but they're renting it out, they don't care, whatever, Maybe it'll mean they can charge more rent later. Anyway, those are my 2 thoughts in addition to what everybody else had to say. I have deep concerns. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Claire Willenberg, and I do not live in Delano, but I live in Wichita. I live at 1402 Garland, and I'm very concerned also about lack of green space and loss of parks. I live in a similar neighborhood in North Riverside, 1402 North Garland. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say that. Those of you who live in older neighborhoods know, even now, because we had smaller homes with 1-car garages often. So some of those 1-car garages, if they were attached, are now the 2nd or 3rd bedroom. So we have people that park on the street. Evenings and weekends, you cannot do 2 ways. You play who goes first. It's already too dense. Densification, I understand, we need it in places. This is not a good place. The neighborhoods backing up are already dense. They're already diversified. Besides just probably being the oldest person in the room, I was a realtor for more than 30, I'm still a realtor for more than 30 years. Back in the day, I was very active and very productive and had a great website. I can't tell you how many people, because I specialize in old neighborhoods, how many people moving to Wichita would contact me because they opened the map, they saw where the river was, they saw where most of the green space and park was, and that's where they wanted to move. Because I specialized in those areas, they'd call me. We're losing that. We're so far behind on parkland. We're losing mature trees. We don't have 50 years to wait to replace all these trees to make them mature. I don't live in Delano, but I go down McLean almost daily. I do because I decompress, I improve my quality of life and my outlook because there's green trees, and occasionally I can see the river. That's another subject. We need to preserve the green spaces along McLean. We need to add to parkland, and we do not need to take it away. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Parashow. I'm president of the Delano Neighborhood Association. And since this first came up, I've been one-on-one contacting various members of the neighborhood, attending the meetings that have been set, our own meetings as well, and I have yet to have a single person say that they support this project. The people who live here, the people who use our facilities and our infrastructure are all opposed to it. And the opposition, when they express it to me, can be summed up by one word: gentrification. We are slowly forcing out the people who are here, who have lived here, and who have, I've got 4 kids that I've raised here, and we're slowly being forced out by people who are moving in, building new stuff, and charging 2 to 3 times what the people who exist here pay. I've got a 5-bedroom that I pay $800 a month for. I got that in '07. I can only imagine what it would be like today if I tried to do that. I wouldn't be able to do it. Some of the other points that I would also like to make, echoing on some of the stuff that's been said. Based on some research done by Harold through the city's own documentation, between 2016 and 2020, the city has had a net loss of over 22,000 trees. 4 years. That's after they replanted to replace what they tore down. What they tore down, what they cut down, was even more than that. And that's just forestry. You add projects like this to it, it just magnifies the loss even more because those don't get counted. The sidewalk. That sidewalk for pedestrians and bicyclists is an arterial sidewalk. The neighborhood and the areas to the south of it rely on that sidewalk to get to either Douglas or Seneca and McLean, or all the way over to Central and McLean, where are only 2 accesses across McLean to the river. So if you narrow that down, push it to the curb, and make it smaller, it's going to make it more dangerous for the people who use those facilities. Has anybody ever tried to walk along Seneca from the river down to Douglas? The sidewalk is literally on the curb. And every time I walk that sidewalk, I face myself towards oncoming traffic so that if someone comes up over that curb, I've got a fraction of a second more to dodge them, because I'm afraid that I'm going to get hit. It's dangerous to push the sidewalk that close, even if you have a few feet setback. Can I wrap up?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have to treat that sidewalk as if it's an arterial road for cars, but for the pedestrians and the bicyclists who use it. And it's used a lot. I myself walk and ride it, and I see a lot of people use it as well. Replacing the old growth trees with saplings is not an acceptable option either. And the other thing that I would like to ask is, why are the neighborhoods not notified when the city decides it's going to sell public land? We're notified about developments. We're notified about things that go through planning. But if the city says, hey, we're going to sell this plot of land, we don't find out about it until either the sale is done or there's a contract for it. That happened with the stadium and the team that bought the land around the stadium for $1. Wow. Acres of land for $1. And now they want to do this for a postage stamp sized piece of land. It's crazy.
It don't make sense, does it?
My name is Andrew J. Young, and I may be emotional for just a moment, so forgive me. I have lived in Delano for over 10 and a half years. Sorry. I teach voice, piano, and acting lessons. You'd think I would know how to do this. I don't want to waste your time, but I want to tell you a story, because I'm 49 years old now. This is what I can do. A long time ago, a man named Fred Rogers got to stand up in front of a senator. And he explained to the senator the importance of supporting a particular station, specifically PBS. He gets up and he starts talking. And the senator has already heard people throughout the days. He's done. Nothing is working. Fred Rogers gets up and he says very simple, basic things about why you should support this particular project, why they needed $2 million at the time. Sorry. The senator, for the one time, listens to Mr. Rogers. He doesn't even know who he is. He asks him questions. What do you do? Mr. Rogers explains what he does as a show and his project, how he tries to help the community. And the senator listens to what Mr. Rogers has to say. I'm not here to manipulate anybody. Apparently I'm too old for that. But I want you to know that the senator actually listened to one person because they said the right words. You can make fun of me all you want. I'm not a word person. But when I was asked to speak, I was like, no thanks. I'll sing a song for you. Okay. I'll play the piano. Chris knows. You know, some of these people know. But it's the word. Please listen to their words. Don't be guilted, shamed, manipulated. Whatever you do, we have to move on with life. They put an apartment complex up there. Okay? We have to just move on. But we don't want it. I don't want it. Mark said who the walker was. I'm the walker. I'm getting muddy. Don't tell me, but that was not, please. It's already recorded. Sorry, Jesus. The point is, I know I'm past my time, but you know what? The point is, just listen to the words of what's being said today. Please. Nobody wants it. And whoever is putting it up, find another spot. Because it's such a beautiful place for me to walk. You can judge me how you want. I own my own business. My studio is in my home. I don't make a lot of money, but I love what I do, and it brings joy to my heart. And I'm concerned that it's just going to make the place not look right. I don't know how else to say it. Just listen to their words. I don't know who the Fred Rogers is that's going to be in this room that's going to make you go, you know what, maybe they're right. But please, just listen to their words. Thank you.
My name is Vince Hancock. I'm the Vice President of Delano Association. Live at 406 South Vine. If I had a nickel for every time I mentioned that to somebody that I live in Delano and mentioned what we're trying to do with the development of our neighborhood, I would have a lot of nickels for every time someone says, oh, I used to love to drive through there. I used to love the view of the river, and then up went the apartments. I haven't found anybody other than the developers who are really big fans of those apartments. And just so you know, a previous city council person, no one in this room, made a deal with $1 per acre with the ball team And you're about to see more development in between McLean and the river. It's going to be near the first base side of the ballpark. How you squeeze a 8-story building in between the river and the ballpark will be pretty interesting to see, but it's going to get worse. Just so you know, those plans have already been approved. They're all the way up to the state level. I want to encourage our council member and our DAB members to watch out for some of the buzzwords that may have dual meanings to the development community, including our planning department. First of all, I do want to back up and say, I noticed that Scott mentioned that the developers, not their fault, they were responding to a solicitation for proposal. That means somebody at the city said, hey, there's some underutilized land that we could make some money by selling. This is either the Office of Economic Development, which reports directly to the city manager, or it's the property manager who's down on the hall in the corner. One of those two entities within our city decided, hey, let's put this on the market. Let's see if we can get somebody to come up with a good plan for it. Doesn't mean that this isn't a good plan, doesn't mean that it might not be a better plan, but it was our own city who put this on the market. So maybe we should have some accountability of who was it? You know, funny thing, that's not mentioned in this paperwork anywhere. I have a little bit of an issue with that. Speaking of underutilization as a term for green space, that's how we lost our what was formerly known as West Bank Stage. Another thing to watch out for is urban infill. The original purpose with urban infill was when a house burns down and someone says, hey, we should build another house in its place. We should make sure that that stays a housing area. We've got one at another DAB in town right tonight that I didn't show up at that DAB because it's on a corner. It was obviously a house 5 years ago, and they're looking to just put in a duplex where the house was. That's a little bit of creep to be larger than it was, but not as much as this is. So watch out for the terms underutilization, urban infill, and places for people. They're all just buzzwords to say, we're currently taxing only so much, we're growing on the suburbs, how can we make more tax money from the existing real estate that we have by simply overpopulating it? So I'm hoping we can find a better way. You know, we did have some homes on this property beforehand, before the road needed to be widened. I think there's opportunity to have a little bit of housing here and a little bit of green space, but to do a zero setback, I maintain to the planning department, if you really think this could work as housing, make it TF3. Follow all the rules of TF3, and then let's see what it looks like. The reason it's not TF3 is because they're trying to maximize the revenue per square footage. Plain and simple.
Hello, I wasn't going to speak, but I will, because no one has mentioned another concern that I have. My name is Maya Daniels. I live at 439 North Millwood. You can actually see it on the picture. I was born and raised here in the house that I currently live in. And one of the concerns I have is right along Fern there. Sometimes I go out that way to go to work in the morning, and turning right there is already kind of dangerous because it's kind of hard to see around the corner, like who's coming up the road. So I'm worried if we build more buildings there that it's going to be even harder to see who's coming, which introduces danger that is already existing. And then we also have the problem of however many people are going to be moving into those apartments, like 40 plus or whatever, more people, introducing more traffic into this area that already has like people going 40, 50 miles an hour down the road. Kind of dangerous. And then even over on Vine Street, there's a tree that has a memorial on it because somebody was hit, I believe it was a motorcyclist, pulling out onto that road, I think. I don't know. I remember all the news crews being around there one day when I was coming home, and I was like, wow, that's a really dangerous intersection there. And introducing more buildings there is going to make it even harder for visibility, people pulling out onto that intersection, and like I said, more people and more traffic just introduces all this risk that I'm really concerned about. I don't really like the idea of more news stations and people getting injured or potentially killed. So it's my concern.
My name's Robin Shaw, and I'll be a new resident at 3232 North Somerset Drive, which is not too far from here. So I am a friend of Delano, and I'm also kind of a third roommate at 234 Clarence. My friends Bridget and Brenna live there. And something that I've been thinking about is kind of this larger view of the city of Wichita. Like the flag has been really important. So we have this identity. And I think that trickles down to our neighborhoods. And this is phenomenal to see, you know, there's an identity. I lived in Indian Hills. I live there currently until next week. But I love that neighborhood. I wasn't fully involved in that neighborhood, and 2 developments have just gone up at the corner of McLean and 13th that just went up, and there's another development right behind the Ace Hardware. And as someone who's part of this neighborhood now, El Pueblo, a little bit north, our property is large, but there are some open lots. So my concern is just as a citizen of Wichita, the mission of the city is safety, talks about safety. First, it talks about growing economy. I'm not opposed to economy. There's so much property out there. But what's been mentioned is let's support what's already here. Let's take some of these properties and put some funding back into what's already there. Infrastructure. So I went to this property today, and St. Louis is partially a gravel road. That is a 1-lane gravel road. And so I parked right here, and there was a young boy playing basketball right there, and I'm just thinking, this kid, you know, that right there is just going to be, there's going to be so much traffic in there. And the last part of the mission of our city is living well, to provide a space where people can live well. And I think all of these concerns are, we're trying to live well. But I think that this development is going to significantly impact, particularly people who use that sidewalk and so as an advocate for Delano and a member of Wichita, well done, Delano. Good job showing up.
Do we have any more speakers?
At this point, we want to go ahead and open it up for the applicant or the agent. They have comments, words, if they noted some questions that they want to answer. I want to remind the public that at this time, the public portion of the agenda item is closed. Now it goes back to the DAB for questions.
My name is Nathan Farha. I'm one of the applicants and partners in developing this site, potentially developing this site. The city did put this on the market, solicit offers. So we looked at it as, you know, the city's looking to do something with this excess site that isn't designated as a park. It's, you know, it's obviously a lot of people think it should be a park. So being a developer, we looked at ideas for this site and how to maximize it, both for the neighborhood and also to make the numbers make sense so that we could do the development. Just to give you my history, I'm born and raised in Wichita. My family grew up in Delano all the way back to my great-great-grandfather. Redeveloped the building at 930 West Douglas, Douglas and Walnut. So we're highly involved in Delano, and we want to see it thrive. We want to see it develop because we're developers and do well. So I was just going to clarify a couple things. The sidewalk that is on the north side of the property line. Can you go to the aerial? as part of the zero setback, we would have to bring that sidewalk back in. So sidewalk's not necessarily getting pushed out to the street. And then also just with the rents, we want to keep them as low as possible, but with new construction, it's impossible to compete with a 1920 home on the rent. So without some sort of city incentive, just doesn't make the project feasible. So with that, I was at the last STAB meeting. Do you guys have any other questions or items of clarification?
If you guys were to develop the land, what's your plan for trees? I mean, 13 are required. Do you have a plan for the other 19 that they suggest, or?
No, I mean, we're open to that. We want to do as many trees as we can. And down the center, we plan to create an easement for walkability to the river, and then do some green space along here as well. So we're open on that. We'd like to see more trees there than less.
Do you know which of the trees, like, are any of the mature trees, will they stay, or will they all have to come out, or?
I think we're going to try to keep some of them, but I think the way the site's laid out, it'd be very few. Do you remember at all how many?
A lot of stuff in the middle.
A lot of these?
Right in there, yeah.
Okay. We keep as many as we could, but I can't recall how many off the top of my head.
Do you have a rendering of the project, just because I can't remember it from the last?
I don't have it with me.
No.
Yeah, I brought it to the last STAB meeting.
Have you filed plans for the buildings yet? Have they been drawn up?
We have conceptual drawings and our site plans, but we don't have a permanent set of drawings yet. But yeah, that's the point of the PUD, to try to restrict and define exactly what we can do there. But appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thanks for the time.
Well, at this point, we bring it back to the DAP for comments or a motion.
Is Scott still here?
Yeah. Scott, yeah.
Can I ask you some questions? Sorry, I have all the questions tonight, because I'm torn on this.
You bet.
So currently, it's zoned single-family.
That's right.
So, like, somebody purchased it right now, they could go ahead and build single-family homes on the spaces.
You could, with limits, and I think that that's a big part of the conversation that's taking place. Is the property is kind of it's a different kind of configuration. It's not the typical lots that we see throughout the city, and I think that's part of the challenge with it. Is our code is really suburban style. We have a suburban style zoning code, and that's part of what's come up in places for people, is that some of the buildings that you find in neighborhoods like Riverside and Delano, you could not rebuild some of those buildings and meet our zoning code. So that's part of the challenge. So at SF5, yes, on each of these lots, you would be able to build one single family house, provided that you could meet all the standard setbacks.
Okay. So currently, what's the city's future plan for this? Is it residential? Is it park space? I mean, what's the?
I will go back to the comprehensive plan and just point out that it was identified as residential with a portion of it as open space. Go back to the Delano plan where we saw the map showing residential. Beyond that, I'm not aware of any specific plans.
And who maintains the land currently? The city maintains the land currently?
I would assume yes, but I don't know if that, I would assume parks would be responsible for it simply because of the mowing vegetation.
Are you?
Yeah.
Can we maybe take his line of questioning a little bit back?
Sure.
Farther, and say if it's currently under contract, it's still technically the city's until it, becomes
correct.
The developers. Is there, what I'm hearing is that it's not developable space, it's parkland to the people who use, to the neighborhood. So is there a mechanism that people, by which the community could acquire this officially as a park, is that something that the city can work with the community to turn it into a park? As opposed to like, well, we gotta, you know, we gotta do something with it. Well, it seems like something is being done with it already. So, like, how does this neighborhood get official recognition, basically, from the city that they are using it as a park, so that this sort of, because like this sort of thing is going to keep happening to your neighborhood and to every other neighborhood that has empty lots. I think we see some of these things come down fairly frequently where there is an empty lot. People happen to be using it as a thoroughfare or as a park. They like the green space. They don't want to build in there. And yet, there's nothing really to do a lot of times because maybe it's privately owned, or maybe there's no mechanism by which the city can just acknowledge what is already happening on this part of land. So I mean, I think that's the first, before we even, to me, before we like establish what can be done with this, it's like, well, what is being done already, and how do we just continue that use for the neighborhood?
So there were multiple questions in that,
That's
so I'll
okay.
try and parse away the ones that I can answer and
Yeah.
kind of get to the
I think
ones
most
that I
important one is
can't.
what can they do to acquire this in a meaningful way that it's not sold out from under them later, or in a way that they don't want. Like these are the owners of this land.
So there is a way, the city can formally designate, recognize really parkland. There's not a specific process to do that. I mean, when we did the Park and Recreation Open Space Master Plan, we discovered that there's not one way to make a park. It's kind of, is it a park and is it officially recognized as a park? So they could do maybe a resolution or something to officially indicate that. As far as how could they purchase it or acquire it, that starts to get into kind of property sales and contract issues,
Sure.
and I'm probably not the best person to answer
But it does
those.
sound like that has been done before, where a neighborhood has said, hey, this is a park, and the city's been like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah, I think there's civic initiatives. I mean, think of like, and this isn't really one that was driven by the neighborhood, but you think of like Central and Bristol, or there's other parkland that doesn't even have a name yet that's out on the east side. The city, from time to time, will acquire properties with the express intent of developing a park. In fact, sometimes we'll get land donated, but in other ways, sometimes they take land that the city already owns and just simply recognize, hey, this is going to be a park.
Thank you. I think then my only other comment, I think Vince is still here, is that true? Oh, hey, a while ago, a long time ago, you mentioned the proportion of renters in Delano, and it was really surprisingly high to me. 60, thank you. Where is your renters union? Because I keep hearing like, hey, these things are going to raise rents.
Neighborhood association is also the renters union.
It's an actual renters union?
Well,
Okay.
everybody who lives there is part of the association by default.
But it's
Whether
not,
they're rent or
what I'm talking about is like a different thing, because if you have some place coming in and gonna charge you twice as much rent, and you're saying, well, that's gonna raise rents everywhere else, that doesn't do it. Landlords raise rents. So if you collectively, you got 60% of you in there, my recommendation is if you wanna keep your rents low, you organize and you develop yourself a little collective, and you keep your own rents low. And that's my comment on that.
Thank you.
Well, another issue is that when the announcement goes out, it goes out to the owners of the properties, and so they're the ones that are getting notified. Like maybe Elizabeth mentioned that. So the renters aren't even considered. And I want to know about this petition. I mean, how many names are on this petition? Is there any?
Carol, one was on there, close to 1,000.
Is there any binding ordinance or?
There's over 900, there's almost 1,000 at this point, 940. But quite honestly, if you separate it out between the Wichita and, because people sign that all over the country.
Sure.
So it's about 460 from Wichita. Most of those are from the Delano area. But in Delano, a lot of people don't do computer stuff. So, you could probably ask folks here, Some of them probably did sign the petition, and some of them probably didn't get on the computer to do it. But we decided to do it by computer because we weren't sure how much time we would have. Turns out we had more time than we expected, but we decided to check. But to answer your question, 466, I believe, were from the Wichita area. And I think, I don't know if I just gave the Kansas ones or just the Wichita ones, but there were 460 something from Wichita that signed it. And the comments, we kept those just from the Wichita area.
Yeah. There's no requirement that the city has to pay attention. There's no binding.
No.
Not that I'm aware of. Any more questions?
Do we know how much the land is being sold for? Does anybody have a?
I don't know.
$89,000 is the price and it's in some, I have a copy of the contract at home. It was sold for $89,000.
Because I think
Well, it's not, they're not in the contract.
It's expensive. I guess my point is, I actually think to make areas more walkable, we do need more dense housing. I'm glad that it would be apartments rather than single-family housing. I don't think single-family housing is a great option for there. I think my concern is more about the rent prices, because it is considerably higher than some of the most, I guess, of the other units in that exact area. That's why I'm torn on. I'm torn on this project because I do think we need more density in Delano neighborhood. Are you ready for a motion?
Sure.
Are we ready for a motion? I guess I'll make the motion to recommend this to the city council so we can vote on it. Is that how we would do that motion? You can.
So you're recommending approval of staff's recommendation, correct?
Sure.
Okay. Do we have a second? No.
It's to make a motion so we can vote on it, yes or no.
All right, guys, we're gonna ask that you guys say.
We have to make a motion in order to vote, otherwise we can't actually take a vote.
to deny it. I can't hear what's being decided.
It's, well, I'll let you clarify. It's,
Okay, so the motion at this moment is, based on the information available at the time of the public hearing, staff recommends approval of the application subject to adherence to the recommended PUD text attached. And the following condition listed below. Staff recommend, now requires, the applicant install sidewalks on North Vine Avenue and North Fern Avenue for the boundary of the PUD. Do we have a second from the DAP?
I'll second it.
All right, hold on. Bill?
Yeah.
All right. Are you not listening to this? Okay. Right now, we're at the DAP. We're gonna ask you guys to be quiet while we take the vote, because I need to hear everybody who's voting for this motion. I need to see a raise of hands.
What's the motion?
The motion is to approve staff's recommendation.
We don't know what that means.
That's the
What does that mean? They're recommending.
They're recommending approval.
Yeah, recommending.
All this no? All right. By a show of hands, do I have any yays? All right. Do I have any nays? I need to see that vote one more time because I didn't see Sean over here. Okay. Nay.
Thank you.
The motion was recommended approval.
Correct.
So
It didn't
now
pass.
there's a floor. Okay.
Okay. So right now we have a
Hold
motion.
on. We got one speaker.
We have a motion and it didn't pass. That means that we need to make another recommendation. So now it comes back to the DAB and somebody would have to recommend denial of.
I'll do that. I'll make a motion to recommend denial of the.
I'll second.
All right. All those voting for the motion to recommend denial of staff's recommendation? All right, it looks like it passes 8-0.
You got a question?
I do, Mr. Washburn, just to, because it's a zoning case, and because zoning cases, when they go to court, and per state statute, zoning cases, the governing bodies are supposed to consider the golden factors, which are cited in the staff report in support of the application. So now that you've recommended denial, I'm wondering if there's one or more of the golden factors that you would like to cite just in support. In part of what I've heard so far from the DAB has been a concern about the suitability of the development for the context because of for a variety of different reasons.
Traffic and safety.
Well, I've heard that from the public, but I'm looking for comments from the DAB specifically. I appreciate that they're trying to help. And all we would need is just one or two would be helpful.
I can give you the overwhelming lack of support by the people in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So it speaks loudly.
Yeah, the other one is going to be traffic concerns.
Traffic concerns, okay.
Suitability aside.
Traffic, suitability.
Loss of tree.
Tree spaces.
Okay, wonderful. That is very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we can go ahead and move back to.
One other comment. I guess one of my biggest concerns that caused me to look differently this time, although I appreciate the overwhelming comments from the audience, was the fact that, as I thought more about this since the last time we met, the lack, or last time I've been the need for more available public space within that immediate community, because it is pretty limited. And yet the density of population is growing, especially with all the apartments that have already been added. So I really believe that the city ought to, and Troy would not be happy with me for saying this.
Oh, sure.
I would really like to see the city give serious consideration to making it a public park.
Yes.
All right, with that, we can go ahead and move back to our public agenda portion. We do not have any scheduled items for this meeting, but we do have an off-agenda item section. Is there anybody here to speak on that? Councilmember Ballard? Councilmember Ballard? Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute recess, so anybody who does not want to stay for the remainder of the items can go ahead and exit, and then we can carry on with the agenda for tonight.
You didn't want that, did you?
Sorry, I know we're going to.
No, it's fine. I'm excited to see public discussion. It's a civic process. And I salute you all for the temperament of discussion. That was very civic. It's been that way with this item. It's been very passionate.
You did well. Thanks, you. You get an E for it.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
I try to adhere to this 99% of the time, but once in a while I have a heart.
No, sir, I think it's the boots hits. Is your backpack, sir?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. I'll be back. Thanks for the reminder.
This is the signer sheet, if you would like to use it, you can sign it.
Better opportunities, space and all of that, so
I think that was one of those
that concerns me.
I will find it. Like, yeah. No, I'm not sure about, That should be pretty easy. Except my influence on so there should be for that parking lot.
Yeah, just
You guys have a.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what else they discussed.
Are you here for another?
Oh, okay.
Are you here for another agenda item?
I just. Oh, can we not listen?
Oh, no, you can see it.
Oh, okay.
She's new here. Yeah, she's from the planet.
You want to talk?
Is that open yet?
So I
All right, Scott, I think we're ready for whenever you're ready.
Okay. Less fun.
Dad.
Let's go.
Dad.
Which one are we on?
We're going to go back to new business, so the revision of the city council district boundary lines.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez was involved in that, so he'll be really helpful. But we got two options on this one. We have got a video, which will probably take less time and is more concise, or I've got a PowerPoint and I can provide that. I can present it. So either way, works for me. Which one would you? Huh? The video? We tried to keep it around 5 minutes. Yeah, we tried to keep it really short because I know those ones were like 15 minutes.
And then I guess the question is, how long is the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just a matter of, do you want me to go on and on in front of you while I give it, or would you rather see the video where they took out all the pauses and ums and all that
And just
stuff?
a note, we did email you guys the video. It was part of the agenda, so if you guys were able to watch it at home, and review some of the materials, we might have some questions.
It sounds like the preference is for the video. That's what I'm getting. Should we go that direction? Okay.
We'll try the video.
Cue the video.
If I start snoring, wait.
Oh, wait. No. We won't let that happen.
All right, well, let me pull up the video.
I wish we had that many people show up all their ads.
I'm like,
I mean, just the
let's do a neighborhood
conversation
plan
is-
like right now.
Just like just any engagement is
Yeah.
awesome. It's like we need to figure out how to do that like before. Dagan, he said that you're doing the presentation on the district.
Don't get me started.
I could do it, but it's not gonna be PC. I think Scott is tired of talking.
Redistricting, not true. Redistricting maybe. He was tired of me.
In terms of the recommended action, it's recommended that the DABs provide a recommendation to the City Council on proposed or on revisions to the City Council district boundaries. And those recommendations can be based on the recommendations from the Commission of Electors, or they can be their own. In terms of the PowerPoint, we're going to go through the background process, public input recommendation, and next steps as we go through this. In terms of background, the city has Charter Ordinance 173, and what it specifies is that every 10 years, the city will revisit the city council district boundaries, and it will look at census information. There'll be a council-appointed commission. It's referred to as the Commission of Electors, and their task will be to draw up some proposals, recommendations for council districts, so that no council district has a greater than 5% deviation from the average, and it's based on population, and you'll see how that's accomplished in the next few slides here. And then all of this will be submitted, and that the City Council would take action before December 31st, at the end of the year. So here are the existing council districts, and the red boundaries are the census tracts. Here are the council districts, the 6 council districts by population. Here's the same information, council districts by population, and here you can see where there's a deviation of greater than 5%. So you can see that District 2 is up by more than 7%, and you can see that District 3 is lower than by more than 5%, about 5.5%. And so those are 2 that don't meet the standards of the charter ordinance. In terms of the process, you can see that the Commission of Electors was appointed on the 5th of July, and that again, at the end, that the goal or deadline is to have action by the City Council in terms of adopting new district boundaries by the end of the year. Some things that the Commission of Electors were recommended to consider were, you can see here, in terms of using election precincts, you can't divide an election precinct, maintain a compact area, maintain as much integrity of broadly cohesive areas of interest, avoid using the number of registered voters by party and partisan data. Again, it's got to be within 5%. And then thinking about the future, where is growth occurring in the city of Wichita? So here's a map that shows the precincts as well as the existing city council districts. Here's a map that shows the neighborhood associations. We also have a map that shows the HOAs, and that was used as well. Here's a map from the comprehensive plan, which shows future growth areas, which are the tan and brown areas on the edge of the city. And here, those future growth areas are overlaid over the existing city council district boundaries. In terms of the process, again, charter ordinance specified the creation and appointment of a commission of electors. The commission of electors, again, was appointed on July 5th, and with another appointment that followed shortly after. And here are the members and who appointed them. The process that they used is that they reviewed concepts, made tweaks or refinements to those, and ultimately provided recommendations. Throughout the entire process, public input was accepted. And I'll tell you, over the course of the process, they reviewed more than 20 different concepts or maps that were developed. They had 8 meetings, starting with July 12th, ending on August 24th. In terms of public input into the process, there were opportunities for members of the public to come and speak at the commission meetings. There was also an open house held at the Wichita Art Museum. There were opportunities to comment through forum and also Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor. In terms of the recommendations, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to take us through what the Commission of Electors recommended.
Good afternoon, members. Yes, there are 2 maps presented to City Council, and they're asking these to be brought to you. Map A shows the first set of recommendations, and there is a table in the lower left that shows the percentages of deviation and the total population numbers. Here are the election precincts, neighborhood associations, and homeowner associations that are impacted by the changes shown. This continues the list of homeowners associations for Map A. This is Map B, again with the table showing the populations and the deviations, the election precincts, neighborhood associations, homeowner associations, more the same homeowner associations. The first change is there's precinct 626 going to Council District 1, precinct 538 going to Council District 4, precincts 212 and 213 going to Council District 1, and Council District 3 getting precinct 101. Between the 2 maps, there's really only one precinct district that's changes, and that is 216 here in A, stays in 2, and it changes to District 1 in Map B.
So in terms of next steps, you can see again that the target date is the end of the year. So we're going out to the district advisory boards. Later on, there'll be a presentation to the City Council for their consideration, again with that goal of the end of the year. So the recommended action for the district advisory boards is that you would provide a recommendation to the city council on revisions to the city council district boundaries. Thank you very much.
Nicely. Thank you. It's like, come on, make it faster. But there was one error actually in there. And so do you have the maps in front of you? No. Okay, let's go to the PowerPoint. Do you have the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to pull up the PowerPoint to the rescue. But while we're doing that, I think, can we give Mr. Gonzalez a round of applause for serving on the Commission of Elections? It was quite the adventure, quite the commitment. All of a sudden, their Wednesdays were like totally taken up with these meetings. So it was quite a commitment.
Anxiety was at all-time high.
It was a lot of passionate discussion, I think, is the best way to put it. Let's go to the maps. If you go all the way through, and what I want to show you is just a small thing, but it's kind of it's a little thing, but it's a little bit of a big thing. So let's keep going, and we'll keep going, and then we'll go for the ones that have A and B on them.
Gotcha.
Let's keep going. Okay, A and B. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, go back one. Okay, so see see at the top, there's this little bitty, okay, see where the black line is? That's where the current city council district boundaries are. And you see how A has one, it kind of, let's go over to the right just a little bit. See where it says 214? Down, just that one right there. That right there. That is the difference between A and B. It's a question of should that precinct be in District 1 or should it be in District 2?
Why is there a question if it's based on numerics?
Now, I can answer that for you.
Yeah.
So on these maps, and can you flip to B real fast? And kind of like what he said, the only difference is that one would flip from District 2 into District 1.
Yeah.
I personally recommend, and it was my recommendation that we voted on the map B, is because it moves 2,000 people unnecessarily to District 1. If we keep B, it leaves those 2,000 people, which cuts down on voter confusion. They don't have to wait to vote for a different council member, and it still leaves us within the level variation. So we were bickering at this point over a 0.2% deviation, which makes no difference. We fall within the 5% deviation. So that's why, I mean, kind of like he said, the only difference is really that one precinct. Now, I personally would like to make another recommendation for us. If you look at the top, that precinct 626,
It's right in the middle. It's a little sliver.
it's a little sliver. It only
At the
has
very top,
20
like
people
interchange.
in that precinct. And it, again, is unnecessarily moved from District 6 into District 1. So personally, I would recommend that we recommend map B and move that precinct, with our recommend to move that precinct back into District 6. So that means that we're cutting back on the number of people who are moving districts, and again, that cuts back on voter confusion. They don't have to relearn where their districts are, which, yeah, I mean, it just cuts back on a lot of
Well, it
issues.
changes their council member, but it doesn't change when they vote.
Well, it would change, because
It would change when they.
When they vote because of the
Council
rotation.
members.
because of the
Yeah.
rotations, yes, yeah.
I want to know about the numbers. That's what this thing holds predicated on.
So the numbers, like I said, both of these fall
They're in the
well
corner.
beneath the 5% level of deviation. And some of these districts we left with a little bit under deviation because that's where the perspective, or the growth is expected to happen. So like in District 1, that's where the most growth, or District 2, that's where the most growth is going to happen. It's purposely kept down. But again, they're both well within their levels of deviation.
How often, when does this happen again, the next census?
10 years.
10 years.
Where is the, not the 20-person flipper, but that other one? What
If you-
are the streets on the big, well, on that big
It's,
district?
oh,
that are
that's
on
the
big
other
precinct
end, yeah.
This
where-
is
14.
So this is Rock Road, which would be on the east boundary of it, and then you have 21st is the southern
So
boundary
that's
of it.
21st and Rock and that little neighborhood?
Yes,
second.
yes, in the northwest corner.
And it's currently in 2,
Correct.
But it would be, in this map,
but
map
map
A,
A puts it into 1.
yes,
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
and map B leaves it in 2.
Across the street from Bristol.
Yes.
So could I see map B? I want to see the numbers on it, please.
They're extreme, like I said, they're extremely close. And when we came, during this whole process, there was a bajillion maps. Some of them cut the north end in half. Some of them moved Riverside. I mean, there was all kinds of variations. We narrowed it down to map 2 that most of the commissioners could agree on. That map 2 was a pretty good map. And then these were, one of them was a variation off of map 2, which is map A on this one. And the other one was the original map that we all liked, which is the map B on this one.
So you're thinking it, let me rephrase that. Your opinion is.
Yeah, my opinion.
Is that it should be the B selection with the exception of section 214.
With the exception of 626.
626.
Oh, the rules. Oh, okay.
That little
All right.
sliver.
214 is already back in.
Yes,
too.
yeah.
So that sliver up in District 6
And
is what
again,
you're concerned
that
about.
sliver is not a huge issue. It's an unnecessary move of 20 people, and I mean, the natural boundary there is Highway 135.
I'm gonna try to pull up the map so we can zoom in.
Sure.
You guys need to.
Like I said, the natural boundary there is 135, and I'm not about moving people unnecessarily.
Well, the numerics don't seem to support it.
No.
What was the rationale for the move?
Again, there was no rationale for that move.
Well, there has to be.
626.
You may not have agreed with it, but there had to be a rationale.
Not for that one, I don't think. Not for the
Somebody just
626.
arbitrarily drew the line?
It is my opinion, yes. Now, the rationale for the other one, the 214, was because it got it closer to a 0% deviation, and that's what they liked. Now, like I said, that's the rationale. The 626, I don't think was ever discussed for what the rationale was. I honestly think that the 626 was an oversight, basically, because it is such a small one. We were working off paper versions of this, and on that paper version, you could barely see 626 is even there. I overlooked it all through the entire process.
All right, so this is map A.
This is A? Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, so it's super tiny, 36.
36 people.
And B puts that in.
Well, no, they both have that.
So
it's,
what you're saying is it should be, you think
we
it
should
should be at
recommend
6.
to move it back, to keep it at 6, not move it to 1.
What did they change the boundary from I-35 to what? What is the black line now in this picture? Is there any way to tell? Did they put it to Broadway or it's hydraulic or what is that? It's hydraulic.
Looks like maybe hydraulic, yeah.
They moved it over from I-35 to hydraulic.
Yep.
Kind of hit a geographic boundary.
So, just to the northeast of the zoo, there's a little island there. What is that? Right there.
I think it's unincorporated land.
Is it the water facility?
I think it's the water treatment
Yeah.
plant.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are precincts that are drawn up. The county does it, and so we don't really have discretion about what those boundaries are. But
Right.
yeah,
I'm just curious why it was a different color.
yeah, no, good question. I guess I don't really have a good answer, but I think that's where the water.
I don't think there's a good on there for the water facility, so.
I hope not.
Yeah, that's fine.
So then we just need to recommend.
I'm sorry, are you waiting for a
Yeah,
motion?
go for it.
Well then, you have a question?
No.
Well then, I would make a recommendation that we recommend map B to the city council and also recommend that they keep precinct 626 in District 6.
Sorry.
All right, do I have a second? All that members voted in favor of that motion?
Aye.
All right, it looks like it passes 8-0. All right. Mark, did you vote on that motion as well?
I said aye.
All right, I didn't hear you. Okay, so it's 8-0. With that, we can move on to agenda item number 8, that's conditional use 2022-28. Scott and I will get this pulled up for you.
Okay. Sounds great.
You guys ready? Sorry.
Thank you, Sean. Bye.
Okay, well, I can, well, I don't want to wait for the pictures. Which item are you on here for, or for all of them? Okay, just interest. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is, let's go to the pictures first. So this is the Triangle Piece property at Weston Zoo. You may be familiar with it. It's got an auto repair shop on it right now. So here's the aerial. So you can see there's I think it's like a former gas station, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Let's keep going. Okay, so here's the zoning. So you can see that there's LC zoning, the red, running up and down West Street on the east side. Now, tonight, you'll also be considering a zoning case for this property, but they're unreal. I mean, they're close proximity, but they're not the same owner. They just coincidentally kind of came in at the same time. But you can see that there's residential zoning around this area. This is from the comprehensive plan, and it shows that it's right of way, but like there's commercial that kind of goes up there. The comp plan, we're looking at stuff so far zoomed out that, but it looks like I really would say commercial. And let's go ahead and move to the next one. This is the layout that was submitted by the applicant, and it shows where the stalls would be for where they would have the cars that would be available for sale. And we asked them to do this so that everyone has a good concept about where those would be and where the customer parking would be and employee parking, those kind of things. Okay, and I believe that this was drawn up from a previous application that was not approved, and then was resubmitted by the applicant for this one. So next.
Is that the existing structure? You're not changing that?
No, they're not proposing to change any of the existing structures, and in fact, there's the existing canopy that's over here. That's why it looks a little bit different, because in the aerial, you see this garage and you see this existing structure, and you see the canopy. So that's kind of what took me a little while to kind of figure that out. Okay, so here's the facility. It's pretty vibrant. This is, I believe, looking south from the site. Let's go to the next one. And this is looking at the site and looking towards the intersection. And
13th and Zoo.
And there's you see the red and white sign. This is the case you're going to be hearing next. So, all right, next one.
But that's awesome.
That's all we got?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they can get a little flavor for the context. So let's go back to the staff report. So what is happening here? I haven't even gotten to that point. Well, they're asking for a conditional use in order to be able to do vehicle and equipment sales at the site. And they're requesting this, the applicant has indicated they're requesting this in order to be able to sell motor vehicles at that property. Subject site, you can see where it's located, southeast corner of Zoo and West. The site's zoned LC commercial and is currently built with auto repair shop, so you saw that. Properties to the north and east across Zoo Boulevard are TF3 two-family residential. Further east and northeast are single-family residences. South of the subject site, there's a strip of LC zoning, which we saw, developed with commercial properties. Uses include retail, office spaces, child care center, restaurant. Properties to the west are zoned B multifamily and general office. And like we talked about, one of those is a case that you'll be considering tonight. And then further west is a single-family area. So, so that's kind of the highlights from this. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, let's go up just a little bit for the bullet points. Okay, so there, what we'd like to do is look for where's the nearest auto sales that are in the area. And so Windy City Motors is located just less than a mile south of the subject site. Superb Motors is located just under a mile from the site on West Street, and then there's one on Central, 4231 West Central, which is just under or just over three-quarters of a mile. on Central Avenue. So those were the nearest auto sales that we saw. Okay, and let's see, the staff recommendation on this one is for denial. And we mentioned the golden factors in there, but in general, we were recommending denial because auto sales involves outdoor displays and commonly involves outdoor displays and storage, which we believe are not a good fit for the surrounding area, that the approval would set a precedent for other heavier commercial uses in the area, and 3, that it's not in conformance with the comprehensive plan and what it has to say about specifically locations of more intensive commercial uses. Now, this case was heard on August 18th by the Planning Commission. That's where the public hearing was held for this case. Planning Commission considered it and voted to recommend approval per the alternative conditions that are listed in the staff report. And those alternative conditions, I'd like to just draw some attention to that, and that is that it limits what types of vehicles can be sold to the site to just used cars, light trucks, and that it would be an accessory use to vehicle repair. So if the vehicle repair shop ever closed, they could not continue to operate vehicle sales at that location. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And no body or fender work would be permitted without first obtaining different zoning. Okay. And that the number of used cars for sale would be limited to no more than 5 at any time. That the applicant would submit a site plan illustrating, showing the display area, circulation, solid screening, all that kind of stuff. And then that parking barriers would be installed along all the perimeter boundaries. That some of those little fences that you see along dealerships. That no temporary display signs would be permitted, including the use of commercial flags, banners, portable signs, pennants, streamers, pinwheels, string lights. It's amazing what they come up with. Searchlights, bunting, and balloons. Yes, yes. So no 4th of July bunting. And that there'd be no use of elevated platforms for the display of vehicles. So if you've seen the Range Rover platform out in, none of that. I know. No amplification sound systems. So you've seen the mega horns. None of that. And then no outside storage of salvage vehicles or parts. And that the lighting can't go onto other properties, spill over. Now, that's almost all the conditions that were in there. The other ones, not really special. But, so the MAPC recommended approval subject to all those conditions, except they modified one of the conditions to be, instead of 5 spaces that would be limited to, they said, let's increase it to 7 spaces. No more than 7 vehicles can be sold at any one time. So that was kind of a long-winded presentation, but that's what I got. I'll stand for any questions.
Was the point that they decided to not recommend it was when they went from 5 to 7?
You mean when they decided to recommend approval?
Well, but you said that it's...
Oh, okay. The staff recommendation is for denial, but the MAPC recommendation is for approval with the 7 vehicles, not 5. And the logic behind their recommendation was that they said, look, it's already motor vehicle uses. Motor vehicles are already there. They didn't feel like that was going to have a big difference to the neighborhood. They said, look, it's already an automotive use.
I guess I would say it actually makes more sense to sell cars out of a shop that fixes cars than it does to have a whole place that only sells cars and doesn't fix them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Dave,
I thought it might be kind of a visibility issue if we're going to line cars up, but if there's only 5 or 7 cars, visibility is not going to be an issue.
these, at the risk of sounding judgmental to the current owners, they have not, in my opinion, based on driving by them quite frequently, they don't do a good job of maintaining the visibility and the appropriateness of the area in its current zoning and usage. That having been said, I'll share with you that we had a zoning request change for a car lot usage on Womer Boulevard and about 32nd North, I think, some while back. The White Feather, you may recall that. I would tell you that that guy has done a tremendous job of adhering to not only what he was told we'd have to do, but what he committed to do. And
That was
he's
that
got-
erstwhile smoke shop, tire shop.
Yeah, yeah, and really made a difference in that spot.
Mhm.
I just don't see that happening with this, based on the history.
I would maybe add to that, when I drove by this place, I pulled into that lot, and there's not a whole lot of space in it, especially on the north end of that lot. So if you're gonna just put 5 or 7 cars out of there, it's gonna be hard to see around that corner.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I didn't remember.
All right, it sounds like, do we want to recommend a motion?
I'd recommend we,
Oh, public
oh,
comments.
you
I'm
can-
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We open it up for public comment. Is anybody here to speak on this agenda item? Okay. Is the agent or applicant present?
Okay, I don't think so.
I don't think so. So we bring it back to the DAB for a motion.
I'd move that we follow the recommendation for denial.
I second that.
So do we know what the reason for the staff denial?
Yeah, he covered that.
I'm sorry.
Sure. So the question was, do we know the reason or what was the explanation for the staff recommendation of denial? And so in the staff report, let's go ahead and go through that. So it was commercial uses, let's see, okay. It was that the outdoor storage and display of vehicles are not consistent with the type of development in the subject area. And that approval could set a precedent for additional outdoor sales, vehicle sales, lots or heavier commercial uses in the area. Also, it was just the effects of to the neighboring properties, that it's not in conformance with the community investments plan, comprehensive plan, or places for people plan, and just the potential spillover effects from traffic volume, light pollution, really about the context, the impacts of the context.
Yeah. I kind of get Bill's point that he doesn't keep the place extremely clean. It's not tidy. He doesn't really keep it neat. But maybe if he was making more money selling cars, it might be a little, he might be able to keep dressed up.
I think there is a motion and a second to deny, to take staff's recommendation.
So we can go ahead and vote. So all those in favor of Bill's motion?
What do you want, a hand sign?
Hands would work, that's fine. All right, so all in favor, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All against the motion? I have 2. It looks like the motion passes 5-2.
And who was the second on that?
That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Last one.
Tonight.
Thank you guys for
Tonight.
being patient.
Yeah.
And this is one that's come back, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So this one is returning to you after being reviewed by the MAPC twice. And it was reviewed by you all and then went to the MAPC. And what happened at the MAPC the first time is that the applicant sort of changed their request while there was discussion about the case. And the MAPC said, hey, why don't you go back, reconsider, and then come back to us once you have once you've finalized kind of what it is you're requesting, the language. And they did that, and then the MAPC recommended approval. So this is a property across the street from the one that you just reviewed. And let's go ahead and look at the photos. The applicant's requesting, it's currently zoned B multifamily, and the applicant's requesting to zone it to LC limited commercial. Okay. So here's the aerial, and it was built originally as a residential structure. It was built as a two-family kind of a duplex structure, is my understanding. Let's go. Actually, we can go right back to the aerial. Sorry. One issue that's come up with this case, or something, it's not an issue, but something to think about, is the structure next to it is kind of it's a residential style, and to the north is residential, so just keep that, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's go scroll down. So here's the zoning. So it is B multifamily, and then there's GO, general office. So even though the structure immediately to the west is a house, it is zoned for office use. And then the one to the south, even though it is built as a house, it is zoned for limited commercial. So you've got a little bit of sometimes the zoning doesn't necessarily match up with how it was originally built. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Comprehensive plan identifies it for residential in this area. Let's go to the next one. So here's the photo of the site. Now, it has been used as an office for some time, which is illegal in the B zoning district. And the applicant or their agent has indicated that they are looking to rezone it in order to get it into compliance because their intention is to sell the property. So scroll down. Just photos from the area. This is looking north. This is looking to the west. And they've got some materials. Or no, this is looking, yes, okay, kind of west and north. Okay.
That's the property itself, isn't it?
This is, yeah. So I think this is looking at the driveway of the property. So let's go to the next one. So this is looking west at, this is the single family house that is in fact zoned GO. So, and let's go, and this is the one that you just saw. If we can go back up to this.
Pretty clean.
It's a good day.
So one of the differences is that the MAPC recommended approval, but as part of the conditions, there was originally, it would have been a condition for a 6-foot fence, screening fence between these properties. And they said, you know what, that property, it's a house, but it's zoned for office. So they're like, let's do away with the screening requirement. So you'll see that in the staff report. So let's go ahead and scroll down. These are to the north of the subject site. So these are apartments. And let's go down.
That's the last one.
That's the last one? Okay. Let's go clear to the top, and then we'll go through it real quick. Okay, so, okay, there's the map. You're familiar with that. So we've talked about their intent, why they're asking to do it, again, because they intend to sell it. Where it's located, you know about that. Let's go down to the next paragraph. We've talked about what's around it. The thing that's missing, there's text in there on about a recommended PO. Do we have that? Where's the bullet points?
It's on page 4.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're recommending approval now because what we are doing is saying let's recommend approval for the LC zoning, but subject to a protective overlay that would sit over the property, and that would restrict the uses to those permitted by right in LC to construction, sales and service, convenience store, restaurant, retail, general, secondhand store, agricultural research, and agricultural sales and service. So what it would do is it only limits it to those uses. It doesn't allow any other. And sometimes in LC there are other uses that would have expanded that list quite a bit. So we're trying to tighten it up. And Any structure would be limited to 35 feet in height, 6-foot screening fence along the west and north property lines, no outdoor speakers or sound amplification, no portable signs, no illuminated signs on the west or north elevations, as long as they're residential uses. And if the site should come into compliance with the landscape ordinance if it is demoed and rebuilt.
Scott, question about 4.
Sure.
Just the outdoor speakers, no sound application. Does that mean unless they want a drive-through restaurant? Or is that including if they want a drive-through restaurant?
No, they're not permitted, provided they can be permitted. That is an excellent question. And I did not catch that or write this. I guess if, whichever you think, whichever is your preference as the DAB, how about you make that explicit in your motion and then we can communicate that forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sorry, I just, the way it's worded, it could be either way. Okay, with that, I'll stop and see it. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
One, so you said originally they took the requirement for the fence out because it is currently zone GO. But this says that they do have to have a fence as long as that is a residential use.
Yeah, great question. So this is the staff recommendation, and MAPC recommendation. Planning Commission recommended the same thing, except they struck out the one about the fence to the west. So MAPC was the same, except for striking out the portion about the fence to the west, screening fence.
And have you heard from any of the neighbors?
Not to my knowledge, no. I don't believe
No
that came up.
protest?
No, Let me, I'll double check on that, but I don't believe so. I'll check the MAPC minutes. No, there's no reference to anyone else in the minutes. And I'm not aware of any protests on this. Yeah.
All right, do we have additional questions, comments from the DAB? Is anybody here from the public to speak on this agenda item? The agent or applicant present? No. All right, we bring it back to the DAB for a motion.
I guess I will motion to approve the recommendation with the caveat of that I don't want to say, just to strike the second clause in there and just to say outdoor speakers and sound amplifications are not permitted.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, just point of clarification. So is the recommendation for approval, does it include the screening fence to the west or not?
Sorry, could you clarify what is there now? Like, is the fence to the west there now?
No, it's
Oh.
not.
I don't think they have a dog in there.
I don't know.
I think my motion will be for what I said.
Just strike the number two.
And leave
Okay,
the
so-
fence situation alone, just get rid of that second clause.
So leave the fence as is, and so number 3 would require it.
Right.
But strike out that, the after the comma for number 4.
And I will still second that.
All right. By show of hands, all those voting to approve this motion? All right. All those against it? Looks like the motion passes 6-1.
Oops.
With that, Councilmember Ballard, I'll turn it over to you for board agenda updates, issues, and reports.
Okay. Just a little update on the Amadon Bridge project, really quick. On the 17th of, the 19th of this month, the northbound traffic will be closed down, and then around the 1st of October, it'll be a complete bridge closure, and the temporary fire station should be up and running and ready to go October the 3rd. So
Only closes October 1st.
yeah, it's around then. So there'll be lots of signage. They're working on the extra signs right now for the detours and to point out the additional bus stops. So the other thing is we've gotten a lot of feedback about McLean going from 4 lanes down to 3. So I'm happy to email out and provide a little bit more information and history on why they decided to do that. Bad feedback, mostly.
I'll give you some good feedback that slaps.
People have been upset that they haven't been able to pass cars, and I'm like, well, that is the whole point, is to slow traffic. So, yeah, so, and there was a lot of community engagement coming along with that project. Also, the pedestrian crosswalk, the lights and stuff should be installed, I think, here in a couple months, definitely by the end of the year. So it's already functional right now, and it's tied into the bike
Will the
path.
stoplight, kind of like the one at Douglas and
The pedestrian cross, yeah.
Rock Island?
Mhm. So, yeah, so we have a lot of moving parts between the bridge and that. Also the road work that's being done on 21st Street between Waco and Arkansas should be done, I believe, by this weekend. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Hopefully, the plan is for those to be wrapped up before the bridge closure. So
Just one last thing, going back, McLean will have a middle lane for turning.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Nice, big white.
Yeah.
Maggie, what were the dates again? They're gonna close it northbound on the 19th.
And I believe it's around the 1st of the month will be the complete bridge closure, and then the fire station should be operational by the 3rd. So, and you know it's going to be super inconvenient, but we're going to get through it and do the best that we can. So just give us a couple days or a week to try to kind of figure out how people are going to navigate, and then we'll try to adjust from there.
So is there the detour to the west of the river? Is it going to be West Street? Is that going to be
Yeah.
the detour?
Yeah, it'll be like West Street, Waco, and Broadway. So, yes. So I know that it will be super fun for you, but after a couple days, if you see, a different pattern that you think we could try to help or adjust, then just reach out to us and we'll try to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think we should all go out and drive it.
I think that's it. Anything else that you want to
Harass you with
I got
messages.
something.
Mark?
Yes.
So the company I work for has an overabundance of these bottles of hand sanitizer. If you know a church, a charity, a school, a person, a business that can use free hand sanitizer, hit me up after the meeting, and I've got a stack of them here, so if you want to just take one, you're welcome to do that too. If you want a pallet of them, I can do that. We got a lot of hand sanitizer.
You got a lot of good.
Mark, you can always leave them here at the neighborhood resource center, and we'll be happy to put a sign up there that says free and just
Absolutely.
hand them out.
You could just wait for the next wave of COVID, too.
We gotta adjourn.
It's a lot.
It's hard.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for your patience.
Hey, Scott, can I change my quote to